In the heart of New York City, where skyscrapers touched the clouds and the streets buzzed with energy, there lived a man named Julian Hart. Julian was no ordinary person. He had built his empire from scratch through sheer determination and grit. His name was well known in business circles, not just because of his wealth, but also because of his sharp mind and ability to spot opportunities where others saw none. Every morning, Julian would walk into his high-rise office building with purpose, his polished shoes clicking against the marble floors as he made his way to the elevator. He was always surrounded by people eager to assist him or seek his advice. Yet despite his success, Julian often felt something missing, a deeper connection perhaps. On one particular morning, Julian entered the building later than usual. The city had been unusually chaotic that day, with traffic jams and delays everywhere. As he approached the front desk to pick up his messages, he noticed something unusual about the receptionist. Her name was Elena Morales, though Julian hadn't paid much attention to her before. She was young, maybe in her late 20s, with warm brown eyes and a calm demeanor that seemed out of place amidst the fast-paced environment of the office. But what caught Julian's ear wasn't her appearance. It was her voice. Elena was on the phone, speaking in fluent French. Her tone was confident, her words flowing effortlessly as she conversed with a client. Julian paused for a moment, intrigued. It wasn't every day you heard someone switch languages so naturally in a professional setting. Just as he thought the call was ending, Elena seamlessly transitioned into Spanish, addressing another caller without missing a beat. Julian stood there, unnoticed, watching her work. There was an ease in the way she navigated between languages, as if it came as naturally to her as breathing. He couldn't help but feel impressed. Curiosity got the better of him, and once Elena finished her calls, Julian walked over to the desk. "Good morning," he said, flashing a polite smile. Elena looked up, slightly surprised to see him standing there. Most executives rarely interacted with the reception staff unless necessary, but Julian had always believed in treating everyone with respect. "Morning, Mr. Hart," she replied, her voice soft but steady. "I couldn't help but overhear your conversations earlier," Julian began, leaning casually against the counter. "You speak French and Spanish incredibly well. Are those your native languages?" Elena hesitated for a moment, unsure why the CEO of the company was asking her such a personal question. But then again, Julian didn't have the intimidating aura many powerful men carried. He seemed genuinely interested, so she decided to answer honestly. "Thank you, sir," she said, smiling faintly. "I grew up in a multicultural household. My mother is from Mexico and my father is French. I learned both languages at home, and over time I picked up a few more out of interest." Julian raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "A few more? How many do you speak?" Elena chuckled softly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Well, besides French and Spanish, I'm comfortable with English, of course. And I've taught myself German and Mandarin too. They're not perfect, but I can manage in most situations." Julian stared at her, momentarily speechless. 5 languages? And she spoke them all with such fluency? He had traveled extensively for business and knew how challenging it could be to master even one foreign language. Yet here was this young woman working as a receptionist, possessing a skill set that most multinational companies would kill for. It was almost unbelievable. "What made you learn all these languages?" Julian asked, genuinely curious. Elena's expression softened as she reflected on his question. "It started as a necessity, really. Growing up, my parents spoke different languages, so I had to adapt to communicate with both of them. Later, I developed a love for languages. They opened doors to new cultures and perspectives. I guess I just kept going because it felt like a way to connect with the world." Her words resonated with Julian. Over the next few days, Julian found himself thinking about Elena more often than he cared to admit. It wasn't just her ability to speak multiple languages that intrigued him. It was the way she carried herself. There was a quiet confidence in her demeanor, a sense of resilience that hinted at a story far deeper than what met the eye. As someone who had clawed his way to success from humble beginnings, Julian recognized that spark in others. He couldn't shake the feeling that Elena was meant for something bigger, something beyond answering phones and managing schedules at the front desk. One afternoon, as Julian returned from a meeting, he overheard Elena once again. This time she was handling a delicate situation between two international clients. One caller, speaking rapid-fire German, was frustrated about a delayed shipment, while the other, conversing in Mandarin, was trying to explain logistical challenges. What amazed Julian wasn't just the fact that Elena understood both languages. It was how she navigated the conversation with such grace. She listened patiently, translated calmly, and offered solutions without losing her composure. By the end of the call, both parties sounded satisfied, their tones softened by Elena's diplomatic approach. Julian stepped closer to the desk, pretending to check his messages, but his focus remained on Elena. When she finally hung up, he cleared his throat to get her attention. "That was impressive," he said, his voice carrying a note of admiration. Elena looked up, startled for a moment before recognizing him. "Oh, thank you, Mr. Hart. It was a bit tricky, but I think we sorted it out." "A bit tricky?" Julian chuckled lightly. Most people would have panicked under that kind of pressure. "You handled it like a pro." Elena smiled shyly, brushing off the compliment. "I just did what needed to be done. Languages are my thing, so I try to use them whenever I can." Her modesty only deepened Julian's curiosity. After excusing himself, he retreated to his office, his mind racing with questions. Who exactly was Elena Morales? How had someone with such extraordinary talent ended up working as a receptionist? Determined to find answers, Julian discreetly asked around. He spoke to HR, reviewed her employment file, and even casually mentioned her name to a few colleagues. What he discovered painted a picture of a young woman whose life had been anything but easy. Elena had grown up in a tight-knit family, but financial struggles had plagued them for years. Her parents worked tirelessly to make ends meet, often taking on multiple jobs to provide for Elena and her younger brother. Despite their hardships, they instilled in her a love for learning and a strong work ethic. Elena excelled in school, particularly in subjects related to languages and communication. However, when her father fell ill and medical bills piled up, she was forced to put her dreams of higher education on hold. Instead, she took whatever job she could find to support her family, eventually landing the receptionist position at Julian's company. The more Julian learned about Elena, the more he felt compelled to do something. Here was a woman with undeniable potential, yet circumstances had kept her from reaching her full capabilities. He thought back to his own early days when opportunities were scarce and every small victory felt monumental. If someone had given him a chance back then, how different might his life have turned out? As the week went on, Julian continued to observe Elena closely. He noticed the way she greeted visitors with warmth, how she remembered names and preferences after just one interaction. He saw her juggling tasks effortlessly, always staying calm under pressure. But most of all, he noticed the subtle signs of exhaustion, the faint dark circles under her eyes, the slight slump in her shoulders during quieter moments. It was clear that she poured everything she had into her work, leaving little energy for herself. One evening, as the office began to empty out, Julian lingered near the reception area. Elena was typing away at her computer, finishing up some last-minute tasks before heading home. Seeing her alone, Julian decided it was time to dig a little deeper. He approached her desk and leaned against it, adopting a casual stance. "Still here?" he asked, his tone light but curious. Elena glanced up, surprised to see him still in the building. "Just wrapping up a few things, sir," she replied. "I like to stay organized, so I don't fall behind tomorrow." Julian nodded, impressed by her dedication. "You work hard, Elena. I've noticed that about you. But tell me, what do you want? Not just for your job, but for your life. Do you ever think about where you'd like to be 5 or 10 years from now?" The question caught Elena off guard. She hesitated, unsure how to respond. Truthfully, she hadn't allowed herself to dream too much. Life had taught her to focus on survival rather than aspirations. I don't know," she admitted softly. "Sometimes I imagine doing something bigger, Maybe working in translation or diplomacy. But those are just dreams. I don't have the qualifications or the resources to pursue them. Julian studied her face, noting the flicker of longing in her eyes. Dreams are important, Elena, he said firmly. They're what keep us moving forward even when life gets tough. Don't dismiss yours so easily. Elena looked down at her hands, fiddling with a pen. It's not that simple, though. Even if I wanted to go back to school, I couldn't afford it. And I can't leave my family. They depend on me. Her honesty struck a chord with Julian. He had been in a similar position once, torn between ambition and responsibility. The difference was that he had managed to break free, thanks to a combination of luck and relentless effort. Looking at Elena, he realized she deserved a chance to do the same. As he stood there, Julian felt a plan forming in his mind. It was bold, perhaps even unconventional, but he knew it was the right thing to do. Elena's talent was too precious to go unnoticed, and her potential too great to remain untapped. All she needed was someone to believe in her, and Julian was ready to step into that role. Before leaving that evening, Julian gave Elena a small smile. "Keep dreaming, Elena," he said gently. "You never know when an opportunity might come. Knocking." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving her to ponder his words. Little did she know, her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. A few days after their brief conversation, Julian found himself unable to shake the idea that had been brewing in his mind. He couldn't stop thinking about Elena, her quiet strength, her remarkable talent, and the way life's challenges had forced her to put her dreams on hold. It wasn't fair, he thought. Someone with her abilities shouldn't be stuck in a job that barely scratched the surface of what she was capable of. The more he reflected on it, the more certain he became. He needed to do something. One evening, as the office began to wind down, Julian decided it was time to act. He waited until most employees had left for the day, ensuring privacy for the conversation he wanted to have. When the lobby grew quiet and Elena was alone at her desk, he approached her. "Do you have a moment?" he asked, his tone warm but serious. Elena looked up, surprised to see him again so soon. "Of course, Mr. Hart. Is everything okay?" Julian gestured toward a nearby lounge area. "Let's sit down. This might take a few minutes." Elena hesitated for a second but followed him, curiosity flickering in her eyes. As they settled into the plush chairs, Julian took a deep breath. He wanted to choose his words carefully. This was a big moment not just for him but for her too. "Elena," he began, leaning forward slightly. "I've been thinking a lot about our conversation the other day. You mentioned your dreams, about wanting to work in translation or diplomacy, and I haven't been able to get that out of my head." Elena shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She hadn't expected him to bring it up again. "It's nothing really," she said quickly, trying to downplay her earlier admission. "Just ideas I sometimes think about. Nothing practical, though." Julian shook his head, his expression firm yet kind. "Don't sell yourself short. Your skills are extraordinary, and they're exactly what the world needs right now. People who can bridge gaps between cultures, who can communicate across borders, those are the kinds of talents that change lives, including yours." Elena stared at him, unsure where this was going. "But even if I wanted to pursue something like that, I don't have the means. School is expensive and my family relies on me. I can't just walk away from everything." "I know," Julian replied, his voice steady. "And that's why I'm here. I want to offer you an opportunity, an investment in your future." Elena blinked, stunned. "An investment? What do you mean?" Julian leaned back, folding his hands together as he explained. "I want to fund your education. There's a prestigious language program at one of the top universities in the country. They specialize in training translators and diplomats, and I believe you'd thrive there. I'll cover all your expenses, tuition, books, living costs, everything. All I ask in return is that you intern with my company during your studies. That way we can benefit from your skills while you grow professionally." For a long moment, Elena simply stared at him, her mind struggling to process what he was saying. It sounded too good to be true, like something out of a movie. Her throat tightened as emotions bubbled up inside her. Hope, disbelief, fear, all swirling together in a chaotic mix. Finally, she managed to speak, her voice trembling. "Why would you do this for me? You barely know me." Julian smiled, softly, his gaze steady. "Because I see potential in you, Elena. Potential that deserves a chance to shine. And because I've been in your shoes before, working hard, doing what I had to do to survive, but always dreaming of something more. Someone gave me a break once and it changed my life. Now I want to pay that forward." Tears welled up in Elena's eyes and she quickly blinked them away, embarrassed by her reaction. "This is overwhelming. I don't even know what to say." "You don't have to decide right now," Julian assured her. "Take some time to think about it. Talk to your family, weigh your options. But I want you to know that I believe in you. I wouldn't make this offer if I didn't think you could succeed." Elena nodded slowly, still trying to wrap her head around the magnitude of what he was proposing. For years, she had convinced herself that her dreams were out of reach, that she would always be stuck in the same cycle of struggle and sacrifice. But now someone was offering her a lifeline, a chance to break free and build a better future not just for herself, but for her family too. Over the next few days, Elena wrestled with her decision. On one hand, the opportunity was incredible, almost unimaginable. On the other hand, fear gnawed at her. What if she failed? What if she wasn't good enough? She confided in her mother, who listened quietly before offering sage advice. "Mija," her mother said gently, "life gives us chances, but it's up to us to take them. You've worked so hard for so long. Don't let fear hold you back." With her mother's words echoing in her mind, Elena finally made her decision. She met Julian in his office the following week, her heart pounding as she stepped inside. "I've thought about it," she said, her voice steadier than she expected. "And I want to accept your offer. Thank you for believing in me when no one else did." Julian's face lit up with a proud smile. "You won't regret this, Elena. I promise you that. Together, we'll make sure you succeed." As they shook hands, sealing the agreement, Elena felt a surge of hope she hadn't experienced in years. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to dream, to imagine a future where she wasn't limited by circumstances, where her talents could truly shine. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of a journey that would transform, not just her life, but the lives of countless others she would touch along the way. With Julian's support, Elena embarked on a journey that would test her limits, push her boundaries, and ultimately reshape her life. The prestigious university Julian had chosen for her was known for its rigorous academic programs and competitive environment. It attracted students from all over the world, individuals who were not only fluent in multiple languages, but also deeply passionate about diplomacy, international relations, and cultural exchange. For Elena, stepping onto the campus felt like entering an entirely new universe. She was both excited and intimidated, knowing that she would be surrounded by peers who had grown up with access to resources and opportunities she could only dream of. The first few weeks were overwhelming. Classes moved at a breakneck pace, assignments piled up faster than she could complete them, and the pressure to excel weighed heavily on her shoulders. On top of that, she juggled her internship with Julian's company, commuting between the university and the office several times a week. There were days when exhaustion threatened to consume her, when the thought of giving up crossed her mind. But every time doubt crept in, she reminded herself of why she was there. Not just for herself, but for her family, and for Julian, who had placed so much faith in her. Julian, for his part, remained a constant source of encouragement. He checked in on her regularly, asking how she was coping with the workload and whether she needed any additional support. "You're doing great," he told her during one of their meetings. "I know it's tough, but you've got this. Remember, I wouldn't have invested in you if I didn't think you could handle it." His words gave her strength, but what truly kept her going was the realization that she wasn't alone. Her classmates, though initially intimidating, turned out to be some of the most supportive people she had ever met. They formed study groups, shared notes, and stayed up late helping each other prepare for exams. Slowly but surely, Elena began to find her footing. She discovered that her real-world experience, her years of navigating difficult conversations as a receptionist, gave her an edge in practical applications of language skills. While others struggled to grasp the nuances of diplomatic negotiations or cross-cultural communication, Elena excelled, drawing on the lessons she had learned while assisting clients at the front desk. At work, Elena quickly became an indispensable asset to Julian's company. Her ability to bridge language barriers proved invaluable as the business expanded into new markets. During one particularly challenging project, Elena helped negotiate a major deal with a German manufacturing firm. The discussions had hit a roadblock due to misunderstandings over technical terms, but Elena stepped in, clarifying the details in flawless German and ensuring both parties were on the same page. Thanks to her efforts, the deal went through smoothly, saving the company millions of dollars and earning her widespread recognition within the organization. As months turned into years, Elena's confidence grew exponentially. She no longer doubted her place among her peers. Instead, she embraced her unique background as a strength. In class, she often shared anecdotes from her time as a receptionist, illustrating how everyday interactions could teach valuable lessons in empathy and adaptability. Her professors praised her insightful contributions, and her classmates looked to her as a role model. Outside of academics, she threw herself into extracurricular activities, joining clubs focused on global issues and volunteering as a translator for local nonprofit organizations. Each experience added another layer to her skill set, making her not just a better student but a more well-rounded individual. Despite her growing success, Elena never lost sight of where she came from. She visited her family whenever she could, bringing them updates on her progress and sharing stories about her new adventures. Her younger brother, now a teenager, idolized her, often asking for advice on how to follow in her footsteps. "Elena," her mother said during one visit, tears glistening in her eyes, "you've made us so proud. All those years of sacrifice are finally paying off." Elena hugged her tightly, feeling a lump rise in her throat. "None of this would have been possible without you guys," she replied softly. "You taught me to never give up, no matter how hard things get." By the time her final year rolled around, Elena had become a standout figure in her program. She graduated at the top of her class, delivering a valedictorian speech that left the audience in awe. Standing on stage, she spoke candidly about her journey, from the challenges of growing up in a struggling household to the pivotal moment when Julian offered her a lifeline. "This achievement isn't just mine," she said, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "It belongs to everyone who believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. To my family, who worked tirelessly to provide for me. To my professors, who challenged me to grow. And to Mr. Julian Hart, whose generosity changed the course of my life." The crowd erupted into applause, and Julian, sitting in the front row, beamed with pride. Watching Elena accept her diploma, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. His decision to invest in her hadn't just transformed her life, it had enriched his own in ways he hadn't anticipated. Seeing someone rise above adversity and achieve greatness was a reminder of why he had started his business in the first place, to create opportunities for others. After graduation, Elena accepted a leadership position within Julian's company, overseeing international operations. Under her guidance, the business flourished, forging partnerships in regions previously considered untouchable. Her colleagues admired not only her expertise but also her humility and willingness to mentor others. Inspired by her story, many young employees approached her for advice, hoping to emulate her success. Elena welcomed them with open arms, sharing the lessons she had learned along the way. Through it all, Elena maintained a close relationship with Julian, who continued to serve as both a mentor and a friend. Their bond transcended the typical employer-employee dynamic, rooted in mutual respect and shared values. Together, they demonstrated that success wasn't just about personal achievement, it was about lifting others up and creating a ripple effect of positive change. Looking back on her journey, Elena realized that everything had happened for a reason. The struggles, the sacrifices, the moments of doubt, they had all led her to this point. And as she stood on the brink of a bright future, she knew one thing for certain. Her story was far from over. Years had passed since Elena Morales first stepped into Julian Hart's office as a receptionist. Now, standing in an elegant ballroom filled with dignitaries, business leaders, and friends, she was no longer the shy young woman who doubted her abilities. She was a celebrated figure in her field, a multilingual powerhouse whose expertise bridged cultures and opened doors for countless people around the world. The gala that evening was held in her honor, celebrating not just her professional achievements, but also the profound impact she had made on those around her. The room buzzed with energy as guests mingled, exchanging stories about Elena's journey. Photographs of her early days at the company were displayed along the walls, capturing moments that seemed almost surreal now. Elena answering phones at the front desk, Elena nervously presenting her first translation project to Julian, Elena graduating with honors from university. Each image told a chapter of her story, a testament to how far she had come against all odds. As the event reached its climax, Julian took the stage to introduce Elena. He stood tall, his presence commanding, yet warm as he looked out at the audience. "When I first met Elena," he began, his voice resonating through the ballroom, "I saw someone special, not because of where she was, but because of what I knew she could become. Talent like hers doesn't come along every day, and it would have been a tragedy if the world never got to see it shine. Tonight we celebrate not only her accomplishments, but also the power of believing in someone when they need it most." The crowd erupted into applause as Elena stepped onto the stage, dressed in a sleek navy gown that complemented her radiant smile. She scanned the room, her eyes meeting those of her family seated in the front row, her mother wiping away tears, her brother grinning proudly. Julian stood beside her, giving her an encouraging nod before stepping back to let her speak. "Thank you," Elena began, her voice steady but laced with emotion. "Thank you all for being here tonight. But most importantly, thank you, Mr. Hart, Julian, for seeing something in me that I couldn't see in myself. You didn't just give me an opportunity. You gave me hope. Hope that my dreams weren't too big, that my past didn't define my future, and that I could rise above the challenges that once held me down." She paused, taking a deep breath as the weight of her words settled over the room. "Growing up, I learned early on that life isn't always fair. My parents worked tirelessly to provide for us, sacrificing so much to keep our family together. When I had to put my dreams on hold, I thought that was the end of the road for me. I never imagined that one conversation, one moment of kindness, could change everything." Her gaze shifted to Julian, who listened intently, his expression softening. "What you did for me wasn't just generosity, it was an act of faith. Faith in my potential, faith in humanity, and faith that everyone deserves a chance to succeed. Because of you, I've been able to help others find their own paths. I've mentored students, translated documents for refugees seeking asylum, and helped businesses expand into new markets. Every step of the way, I've carried your belief in me like a torch, lighting the way forward." The audience remained silent, captivated by her sincerity. Elena continued, her tone growing more passionate. "But this isn't just my story. It's a reminder that opportunities can come from the most unexpected places. It's a reminder that we all have the power to make a difference, whether it's through a kind word, a helping hand, or simply choosing to believe in someone else. If there's one thing I want you to take away from tonight, it's this. Don't underestimate the impact you can have on another person's life. Sometimes the smallest gestures can create the biggest waves." By the time she finished speaking, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Guests rose to their feet, applauding thunderously as Elena stood graciously, her cheeks flushed with gratitude. Julian joined her on stage, wrapping her in a heartfelt hug. "You've done amazing things, Elena," he whispered. "And you're just getting started." In the years that followed, Elena continued to break barriers and inspire others. Her leadership role within Julian's company evolved into something even greater. She became a global advocate for education and language accessibility, using her platform to promote programs that empowered underprivileged communities. She traveled the world, delivering speeches at conferences and universities, sharing her story to encourage others to pursue their dreams despite the obstacles in their path. Her name became synonymous with resilience, determination, and the transformative power of opportunity. Meanwhile, Julian watched with pride as Elena's influence extended far beyond what he had envisioned. Their partnership flourished both professionally and personally. They co-founded a scholarship fund aimed at supporting individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds who showed exceptional promise in fields related to languages and international relations. The fund bore Elena's name, ensuring that her legacy of empowerment would endure for generations to come. For Elena, the journey was bittersweet at times. She often reflected on the sacrifices her family had made and the struggles she had overcome. Yet she refused to dwell on hardship, choosing instead to focus on the possibilities ahead. Her success wasn't just hers. It belonged to everyone who had played a part in her journey, from her parents' unwavering support to Julian's life-changing investment. She carried their love and belief with her wherever she went, channeling it into every decision she made and every person she touched. One evening, years after the gala, Elena found herself sitting across from Julian in a quiet cafe. They had grown closer over the years, their bond strengthened by shared experiences and mutual admiration. As they sipped their coffee, Julian posed a question that caught her off guard. "If you could go back to that day when I first approached, you at the front desk knowing everything you know now, would you do anything differently?" Elena smiled softly, considering his words. "Honestly? No. Everything happened exactly as it was supposed to. The struggles taught me humility, the opportunities showed me the value of hard work, and the people I've met along the way reminded me why it's important to give back. Without any of those pieces, I wouldn't be who I am today." Julian nodded, a look of quiet satisfaction crossing his face. "You've come a long way, Elena, and you've inspired so many, including me." As they parted ways that evening, Elena walked home under the starlit sky, feeling a profound sense of peace. Her journey had been unpredictable, challenging, and rewarding in equal measure. But above all, it had been proof that sometimes hearing someone speak a foreign language or recognizing their hidden talent can lead to discovering a shared humanity. And in doing so, lives are forever changed.